Hello everyone. In this video, we will be just continuing the remaining part of yesterday's lesson. Yesterday we have seen how do we multiply uh, equations by when you have to solve them. So we had variables on both sides. So we will just continue with the remaining part of the lesson today. Now this one I'm not going to be repeating in all the videos, as you know how important they are. Inverse of equations and the integer rules are the most important part when you're solving any algebraic equation. So without explaining that further, I'll move on to a quick review of yesterday's work. So yesterday we were learning about how to solve equations when there are variables on both sides. So the rule remains the same. You have to move the variable to one side and keep the numbers on one side. So when you write this, when you arrange this again, you will be having something like this. The 4b will move to the other side, so that will become a negative 4b. Now 3b minus 4b will give you a negative 1b, or rather it's going to be a negative b. So you will have in equation which says 2 equals negative b. But when you know that you cannot have a variable with a negative sign, so simply you transfer that variable sign to the number. So that becomes b equals negative 2. But if you have chosen to write, as I have written here, 2 equals negative 1, so all what you need to do is b is going to be equal to 2 divided by negative 1. Sorry, it should be a b here. So 2 divided by negative 1 will give you a negative 2. So b equals negative 2. As if you want, you know the ways to check. So you can go on checking. Okay, now moving on to another question. Now in this question, as in yesterday, we have learned that if there are more than two terms on this side of the equation, any side of the equation, I told you to simplify them. I asked you to simplify them just by solving the like terms in the sense if the variables you can solve the variables. If you can solve the numbers, solve the numbers. So here on this side, we are going to solve the numbers as well as we are going to multiply each term with what's inside the parenthesis. So once you solve this, you will get 15 minus 9 will give you a 6. So that will give you a 3x plus 6, which is equal to 2 multiply x will give you 2x. Then 2 multiplied by 2 will give you a 4. So 2x plus 4. Now that you have the equation like how we usually solve them, you can move the variables to one side and move the numbers to the other. So this is going to be 3x minus 2x equals 4 minus 6. As the positive 6 will move to the other side, that will become a negative 6. So this will leave you with 3x minus 2x is 1x. But as I always said, we never write 1x. We only say it is x equals negative 2. Okay, so let's move on to today's lesson. Now, what I want you to concentrate here is what happens if an equation before solving has different kind of forms. So that's what we are going to be looking at in today's lesson. So this is the equation for you. 4y plus 7 minus y equals 10 plus 3y. As you can see on this side of the equation, we have three terms. So which means we can solve and make it a smaller one, right? So I have 4y, 7 and y. Can I solve 4y plus 7? Of course not. How can I add a variable with a number? But I have 4y minus y. So I will rewrite the equation again. Rewrite. I did not say change the sides. I said rewrite by arranging the terms. All what I have done is bring these variables together so that it's easy for us to solve. I did not change the sides of the equation. I only on the same side I just arranged them properly. These are not proper. One variable is here, one is here. So I just brought them together. So this is going to be 4y minus y, which means 4 minus 1, because we know that there is no number means it's going to be 1. So 4 minus 1 will give us a 3y plus 7 equals 10 plus 3y. Now let's rearrange the equation. We have 3y minus 3y equals 10 minus 7, right? So that will give you 3 minus 3 will give you a 0. So 3y minus 3y is basically 0. And 10 minus 7 will give us a 3, right? So what do you think is the equation is going to look like? So your equation will be 3 minus 3 will give you 0 and 10 minus 7 will give you 3. Now you could say 0, why? But 0 has no value on its own, so better remains it's better it remains a 0. So 0 equals 3. Do you think this equation is true? I mean, how can 0 be equal to 3? We never learned anything such. 0 equals 3, no way. So when this equation solutions are not true, when of course this is not true, so we write for such equations as no solution. When the equation finally is not true, as you know, equation should have both equal sides. Okay, both sides should be equal. Now when the equation itself is not true, we just say that it has no solution. Let's check one more. Now here, as you know, you have to multiply the parentheses. So once you solve the parentheses, you will get 6x minus 3 plus 5 equals 6x plus 6. You multiply each term with what's inside. 6 multiply x is 6x, 6 multiply 1 is 6. All right, now here again you have 3 terms, so which means we can solve the numbers, right? So minus 3 plus 5 will give you a positive 2 plus 2. So we can write the equation as 6 plus 2, 6x plus 2 equals 6x plus 6. Let's arrange the variables together and numbers together. So that will give us 6x minus 6 equals 6 minus 2. Now I hope I don't have to go in detail what is happening here, as all of you by now will be fully aware of how to solve equations. If you have not solved, if you still you are in confusion, you can go and watch the videos which we have learned previously how to solve equations, and then you can watch this. So 6x minus 6x will give you a 0. 6 minus 2 will give you a 4. So now again, is 0 equal to 4? Never. 0 is never equal to 4. So we have to write it as no solution. So when it's the equation doesn't come true, when both sides of the equation are not equal, we say that this equation has no solution. Let's look at one more example. Now this is again 2c plus 7 plus c minus 14 plus 3c plus 21. Okay, so again there are 3 terms, which means we can simplify them into 2 terms each. So what you're going to do, you will arrange them 2c plus c, right? That will give you so that will give you 2c plus c plus 7, because we are just arranging them. We are not changing the sides. We are arranging them together. So that's easy for us to add, like 2c plus c, rather than adding from here to here. We are just rewriting it so that we can arrange them, add them easily or solve them easily. So here we have negative 14 plus 21. We cannot do anything with the 3c because there are no more 3c's. So we can only add the 2 numbers. We can solve the 2 numbers only. So here 2c plus c, that is, here it's 1, as you know, it's no number is 1. So it's going to give us 3c plus 7 equals negative 14 plus 21 will give us a plus 7, positive 7 plus 3c. Now we have the equation in this form. Now if you look at this equation, you can feel that they both are literally the same, equal one. See, 3c plus 7, 7 plus 3c, it's the same. Read this the other side. 3c plus 7, 3c plus 7, it's the same. So both sides of the equation are equal. But still, if we still want to further simplify this equation, we will have 3c minus 3c equals 7 minus 7, which will give us 3 minus 3 will give you 0, 7 minus 7 will give you 0, which means both sides of the equation are equal. Now it doesn't only need to be 0 always, it can be 4 equals 4, it can be 5 equals 5, it can be 10 equals 10, not necessarily 0, but most of the questions which according to your book will be given as 0 equals 0. So when such equations come true, that is, both sides of the equations are 0 equals 0, that means all are real numbers. The solution for this is going to be all real numbers. So there is a difference between no solution and all real numbers. No solution is when the equation is not true. But when equation is true, for example, like this, and both sides of the equation are the same, that means they all are real numbers. The doubt will be more cleared once you solve this. Now I'm not going to detailedly explain you how to solve these equations. By now we know how to solve. So all what you need to do is arrange these and then solve the parentheses. So once you arrange, you will get 4n minus 2n plus 6. 2 multiply n is 2n. 2 multiply 3 will give you a 6. So 4n minus 2n will give you 2n plus 6 equals 2n plus 6. As you can see from here itself, both sides of the equations have the same variables and numbers. So from here you can conclude that all real numbers, but still further if you want to go, you move the variables to one side, numbers to one side. So again you'll be left with 0 equals 0, which means again the answers are going to be all real numbers. Okay, now let's practice some. As I always say, practice will make you perfect. So let's practice some questions. All right, so let's start solving this question. Okay, so this is going to be 7x minus 4 equals negative 2x. So as you can see, this side of the equation is a bit longer, so which means we need to simplify this side. So once you simplify, I cannot do anything onto this side because it's just a variable and a number. So I'm not going to do anything on this side. All what I'm going to do is bring these together. So bring the variables together. So to 2x plus 9x. Then we have plus 1 minus 5. Now we don't change the signs because we are not changing the sides of the equation. We are only arranging this properly. The variables together and the numbers together. That's all. Okay, so let's solve this. Now this is going to be the same as we know we cannot do anything. Now negative 2x and plus 9x. What is negative 2x plus 9x going to give you? That's going to give you a positive 7x because you have one positive, one negative, so we subtract it. 9 minus 2 will give you a 7. That is a positive one because 9 is greater and has the positive sign. So let's write here it as 7x. Next is minus 1 plus 5. Minus 1 plus 5. Sorry, plus 1 minus 5. So let me just erase this. The eraser is too big. Okay, I will just make this 1 minus 5. So it's going to be 1 minus 5. Now, as you know, if there is no sign means it's positive. So this is going to give us a negative 4. So 7x minus 4. Now, again, see, both sides of the equation are same. So you are like, you can stop here and say that all, if both sides of the equation are equal, you say it's all real numbers. But still, you can stop here and say all real numbers. But if you want to go a step further, you're just going to arrange the terms. That's going to be negative 4 plus 4. So that's 7x minus 7x is going to give you a 0. Minus 4 plus 4 is also going to give you a 0, which means, again, 0 equals 0. So you just need to write it as all real numbers. So it is as easy as how it is when we solve. Okay, let's do another question. So here I have again, how many terms do I have? 1, 2, 3, which means I have to make it, I have to shorten it, I have to make it smaller. So I can solve 8x and 9x. Then let me rewrite it. 8x minus 9x plus 6 equals, again here I have 3, 1, 2, 3, which means I can still solve. So what I'm now going to solve, I'm going to go to solve the numbers as I cannot do anything with the x. So I'm just bringing the numbers together, 2 minus 15 minus x. So 8x minus 9x, 8x minus 9x, what's that going to give you? That's going to give you 8 minus 9 is minus 1. Right? But we don't say it's minus 1x. Rather, we only say it is minus x plus 6. So the 6 remains the same. Then here we have 2 minus 15. How much is 2 minus 15? 1 is positive, 1 is negative. So the rule is you subtract. That will give me a 13. But 15 is bigger and has the negative sign. So I choose it to be negative 13 minus x. So let's rearrange now. I mean, bring the variables together. So negative x plus x equals negative 13, negative 6. So minus x minus plus x is going to give me how much? As you know, there's invisible one here always. So minus 1 plus 1 is always a 0, right? So this is going to give you a 0. Minus 13 minus 6 will give you a negative 9. Now, is 0 equal to negative 19? Never. Can any time be 0 equal negative 19? It can never be equal. So we say this as no solution. All right. Now let's move to one more question. Here we have again 6y equals 8 minus 9 plus 6y. Okay, here we have again how many terms? We have 3 terms, which means we have to solve the numbers. There is 6y we cannot solve. So we solve the numbers. So 8 minus 9 will give you how much? 8 minus 9 will give you a negative 1 plus 6y. So I'm going to move the variables to one side. That will give me 6y minus 6y equals negative 1. 6y minus 6y will give you 0. Is 0 ever equal to negative 1? Never. So it's going to be no solution. This was an easy one. It was not, we didn't have to do anything much. Okay, one more question. Finally, we have again 3 terms. And how many? We have 4 terms here. So of course we have to simplify them. So which numbers are we going to solve here? Let's write them. So here I will solve 6 minus 1 and minus 2x. I cannot do anything with the 2x because there are no like terms. Here I have 4x and 6x. So I will write 4x minus 6x. Then I also have 2 numbers. So I can solve them as well. Plus 8 minus 3. So 6 minus 1 will give me 5 minus 2x equals 4x minus 6x. How much is 4x minus 6x? Just solve the numbers. 4 minus 6 is going to give me a negative 2 because the negative sign is with 6. So negative 2x. Then plus 8 minus 3 will give me a plus 5. Now if you observe it carefully, basically it's the same thing. 5 minus 2x plus 5. So 5, it's going to be the same. But if you still want to go further, just check it. So minus 2x plus 2x equals 5 minus 5. So minus 2 plus 2 will give me a 0. 5 minus 5 is also 0. So 0 equals 0, which means it's all real numbers. So that's it for today's video. Hopefully you have understood the lesson. As I always say, practice makes you perfect. So only if you practice and do more questions, you can understand what is to be done and what are the steps to be done. Hopefully you will follow my advice, and some of you are following my advice. I hope so. So till we meet again in another video, do like the video and comment below if you have any questions or doubts. You can ask, and do subscribe if you have still not subscribed. So until I meet you again in another video, take care of yourselves and keep studying math.